Skepticism is a philosophical theory that says certain knowledge is impossible. It started off pretty fun with Adam Rowan's orange juice and marriage and your ability to function in polite society.
I love you.
Essentially, critically challenging your beliefs and always ending up in the middle of the spectrum. No one really tells you this about critical thinking. It's a game of intellectual honesty that leaves you unable to form strong opinions. The more you explore both sides of an argument, the more you see how flimsy every conclusion is. It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. And at first, that feels like a superpower. You're free from bias, from manipulation, from blind faith. But then, one day, it turns on you. It starts attacking the beliefs that were keeping you afloat, the ones that made life bearable. It becomes truly fatal when it starts attacking the beliefs that are keeping you from ending it, because you don't get to choose which ideas collapse under scrutiny. Skepticism becomes a habit. You ever notice how trauma rewires your brain? Like if you spend 4 years building a mental perception of your wife and then she cheats on you, your brain doesn't just have a problem coping with the present reality. It starts questioning the reality of the past. It questions your ability to trust in reality at all. And suddenly it decides to never trust anyone again. Skepticism does that, except it's not people you stop trusting. It's everything. Your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own ability to determine if anything is real. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect from hell, except instead of realizing you're not as smart as you thought, you realize nothing is knowable at all. You're not just cosmically stupid, there's no way you can't be. You start looking as people not as lovers, but as patterns, predictable, unreliable, and a slave to their own nature. And morality? That goes next. At first, it makes you question why things are right or wrong, but eventually this piece of shit whispers, maybe nothing is. Maybe good and evil are just social constructs necessary for survival when we became self-aware. Then, meaning. Here's where existentialism comes in. Thanks, Hank Green. Camus called it the absurd condition. The realization that there's no inherent meaning, that the universe is indifferent, and that all human existence is just screaming into the void in increasingly creative ways. Dear listener, this isn't a logical conclusion. It's an emotional state, a reflex, a habit that skepticism makes you a victim of. So what happens when you reach the bottom of skepticism? You don't even argue anymore, because arguments imply that there's something worth convincing someone of, and you don't hope anymore, because hope requires belief in a future that's different from the present. You just exist. And although I think questioning things is important, especially for Pakistanis, because let's be real, half of our traditions are just peer pressure with extra steps, maybe skepticism shouldn't be your entire personality. Please, reevaluate your values before you end up like me. A non-combative agnostic, absolutely drowning in epistemological uncertainty. There's a point where even during the 2-hour cosmological kalam debate, you reach the conclusion that it really is about faith, iman, not logic. David Foster Wallace, who could never fully escape his own mind, warned that everybody worships something, whether we admit it or not, and that if you chose to worship nothing, the void will eat you alive. So where does that leave us? If you can't trust certainty and you can't live without it, then what's the solution? I think maybe the answer isn't certainty. Maybe it's commitment. Maybe it's deciding against all odds that some things are worth believing in. Even if you'll never be able to prove them, if you let skepticism burn everything down, you might not have enough left to rebuild. Because at some point, you have to ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to survive?